Welcome back to the Ronnie's Awesome List podcast. Daylight savings time is on Sunday, November 1st, which means it's time to fall back an hour. Parents know what a huge ordeal this is for young ones and just how 1 hour impacts sleep time. But before you get too stressed out, I have sleep expert, Dr. Angelique Millette, joining me today to talk about tips and tricks for adjusting your child to the fall time change. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ronnie. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this topic.
I'm so excited too, because it's such an important topic that comes up, well, twice a year. But before we begin with like the detailed steps of adjusting to daylight savings time, I wanted to kind of go through a basic checklist of what parents need to sort of prepare themselves with, like, how to adjust their world in preparation for daylight savings.
So the big thing about this time change, this is what we call the fall back time change. The big thing is that we start to have darkness by 5-6 p.m., which for a lot of families, they're just getting home from work if they're working out of the home during COVID time. But for a large part of families, the day kind of ends. The opportunity to go outside and be physical, that's done by 5-6 p.m. And then naturally what happens for those families is they try to figure out how to fill in the evening hours and bedtime routine and all that with a long period of darkness before bedtime. So that's a big adjustment for families, especially for active toddlers that need a lot of movement, how to make sure they're getting their movement needs met if it's dark out. And then, of course, the other big thing is the fact that it's bright out early in the morning. And we're going to go into some strategies for how to adjust to that. But it's just something to think about, that you're going to have darkness by 5-6 p.m. And it limits opportunities for getting outside and getting kids moving. And then in the morning, of course, it's chilly, it's wintertime. You don't necessarily want to get out, but it's bright out by 6 a.m. And so kids are eager to wake up and start their days very early.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put some steps down below in the comments, but so let's talk about these steps for adjusting their sleep schedule.
Okay, so I've been working with families for 25 years, and I would say that the big pain point with this fallback time change is that we just see a lot of early morning waking sleep issues come out of that, which is probably no surprise to any parent. That with fallback, we move our clocks back 1 hour. It's dark early. Kids start to go to sleep earlier. That is actually great. That works really well. But then they're ready to wake up earlier in the morning. And so that early morning waking, we start to see kids waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. Ouch. That's really not a great time to start the day. So it's something to think about with this time change. A lot of you that are listening today may find yourselves in a real pickle with a really early rising child. The strategy that I have used over the years to combat this is that I teach parents how to adjust their child's circadian rhythm ahead of the time change. And it's fairly easy to do. It does take a little bit of prepping and making sure it's on your calendar. So you set a little daily reminder, but it's all you have to do is put your child to bed 10 minutes later each bedtime starting Tuesday night. So if I'm looking at my calendar for next week, everybody, your Tuesday, October 27th is your start date for doing this, okay? So that's like, you want to record that on the calendar and know that on that Tuesday, October 27th, bedtime starts 10 minutes later. And then the next night, 10 minutes later. So let's say bedtime is typically 7 p.m. On Tuesday night, it'll be 7:10. On Wednesday night, it'll be 7:20. On Thursday night, it'll be 7:30. On Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, it'll be 7:40. Saturday night, it'll be 7:50. Time change occurs, I think it's by 2 a.m. November 1st. We're going to fall back. So by Sunday night, when you put your child down at bedtime, their time is adjusted to the new time and it'll remain the same. Their body clock is now adjusted because you've advanced their clock ahead of the time change, so they're right on track.
Sounds great. And again, those comments will be below. So if you want to look at a step-by-step, we can do that. So I know there's like a lot of fears with the flu and coronavirus, and especially as we head towards winter, But what are some suggestions that you can have for parents that they can do during the day to help their kids get a better sleep?
So my best advice, this goes actually for the time change, but also for both time changes that we have. It also works for jet lag, that if it's exposure to sunlight that resets the circadian rhythm. It's exposure to sunlight. And the challenge is that with this time change, it's dark by 5 or 6 p.m. It's cooler weather, although today's nice and sunny, but we start to see less sunlight and colder temps. And so what we see in particular across the country, because I work with clients all over the country, in colder areas where they start to get some ice and snow, families will not get out of the house. Kids don't get out, and there's no exposure to sunlight. But it's that exposure to sunlight that sets that circadian rhythm. So my homework assignment for all you parents is, in particular, the first 2 weeks after the time change, if you can get out for an hour, 2 hours every day. I know that's a tall order. And during the time of COVID, flu season, cold season, we are seeing a real challenge to parents to get out of the house. Parks are closed, public spaces are closed. If you don't have a backyard, that's your only place to go. So we've had to get really creative for folks that are families that are living in cities without any access to public places. They're walking their kids up and down the sidewalks in front of the home just to get that exposure to sunlight. And I encourage parents, give your child a little scooter or trike or stroller to push so they're moving their body and they're focused on something. And even if all you get is an hour every day, do it, you guys. It really makes a big difference. That exposure to sunlight now helps really set in and wire in that circadian rhythm. So it's my best advice to all of you is get outside every day. If you're in colder climates, layer up. And you know what I mean by that.
Yep, dress weather appropriate.
That's weather appropriate. That means extra 10 minutes to get outside and then an extra 10 minutes to come inside. But it really is worth your while to do that because, again, it really sets that circadian rhythm, that exposure to sunlight. Plus, your child is getting some good physical activity, which actually helps them sleep.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
We see a lot of nap resistance this time of year because kids aren't getting outside. And so if they get that time outside a couple hours before their nap, we actually see the naps come back on track and we see no issues with naps. So there's a win-win. It helps set circadian rhythm and it helps sleep.
So adjusting meal times as well, I guess, would be important.
So when it comes to the schedule, the daytime schedule, you're going to follow your child's lead. Expect that the first week, and in particular the first few days after the time change, your child is going to be high needs. And we see parents say, gosh, they've seen increase in behavioral issues, tantrums, whining, meltdowns, because your little one's tired. You can adjust the naps if needed by 30 to 60 minutes earlier. So it'll be that your child's just tired earlier in the day. You can adjust the schedule. I wouldn't adjust by more than 30 to 60 minutes. And for a lot of families, I recommend they don't make the adjustment. It actually works a little bit better to just keep things on track during the day and then just make those timely sleep changes to the bedtimes. That's where we see the results. Now, this is an important point, Ronnie. Mm-hmm. Even though I've given this advice, there's going to be a handful of these little babies and toddlers that don't have, they don't adjust. Even though the parents do a really great job of adjusting that bedtime clock, the child still wakes up early. So for those parents, give yourselves at least a week or so to see if your child just adjusts naturally. We do see a lot of kids just start to adjust naturally. If you're still having some early morning waking sleeping issues, Ronnie's going to have me on for another one of these podcasts so we can talk about how to fix early morning waking sleeping issues. We see so many of these that pop up from the beginning to middle of November. We're going to do a podcast so that you parents have some solutions for that.
Yeah, and I'm looking so forward to that. And if there's anybody who has any questions, feel free to email me or leave a comment below, and I'll make sure to include that in our follow-up podcast, which I'm really excited about. So when do you know it's time to consult with a specialist?
So I would say if you're still having issues 2 to 3 weeks after the time change, you want to pull in a sleep specialist, a sleep consultant. I work with families all over the Bay Area, and I have a team of 10 that I've trained in the Millette method that are working all over the country. So we do have folks that are all over the country, but we can work remotely. 80% of what we do is virtual. It's through video and phone and email consulting. So if you've not seen any improvements 2 to 3 weeks out and your sleep, frankly, is getting worse because your child is waking up, it's a really good time to reach out and get some support.
Wonderful. Well, and as you mentioned, in 2 weeks, we're going to do a follow-up podcast and discuss early morning waking and other adjustments that you're finding you have issues with for daylight savings in the fall. And then we'll revisit this in the spring, I hope. So I want to really thank you for joining me today and with such great advice. So remember that daylight savings time is this November 1st. Please follow the steps that are going to be in the comments below. How can someone contact you for more information? Where could they find you?
So our direct office line is 800-413-2883. Or you can email me personally, info@angeliquemillette.com. I'll spell that out. info, ANGELIquette.com. I want to mention one more thing, Ronnie. It's starting in March. We rolled out a free sleep support group for parents of babies and toddlers. There was a great demand. Families were in crisis, and a lot of families needed sleep support. Frankly, they just needed to feel part of a community during a very stressful time. Mm-hmm. So starting in March of this year, we started to run a weekly free sleep support group. It's a webinar. We meet every Thursday, 10 to 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. It's free.
And is there a website that people could go to register?
So the way to register, if they email me at that info@AngeliqueMillette, we'll get them signed up and we'll give them the Zoom details to join us. And it's every week. We'll take some breaks at Thanksgiving and over the holidays, but it's been a great support. The feedback's been really positive, and families are joining us from all over the country getting their sleep needs met there.
That's so wonderful. It'd be nice for people to be able to sleep better.
Yeah, that's what we keep saying. This, if there was ever a time to get parents sleeping, kids sleeping, this is the year to do it. Sleep is critical.
Yes, for sure. Well, I can't thank you enough. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you again in a couple of weeks.
Well, it's been great to join you on your podcast. Thanks for the invitation. And everybody, good luck with that November 1st time change. Take good care.
Good luck. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.